Welcome to Benison Kingdom Network, where we're breaking molds, embracing uniqueness because we refuse to be confined. I'm your host, Jasmine, and today we have an exciting interview with a fresh voice in the literary world. Joining us is Destine Brown, whose newly released book demo is already gaining buzz for its unique approach and compelling storytelling. We're here to dive into the heart of his work, his inspiration, and what readers can expect from this incredible journey. Let's get into it. Thank you for joining us today. First off, tell us about yourself.
So, my name is Dustin Brown. I am 23 years old. I am a first-time self-published author with my book, The Books of Haevne Nyx, the demo. Uh, yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. So let's get right into it. What inspired you to write the books of Haven Nyx?
So, I think I would say that there are three distinct moments in my life that inspired writing the book or like having the world of Nyx come to life. The first being just the beginnings, kind of the foundation of Nyx. So this started back in 2018, 2019. I was a senior in high school, and that's when I felt like I got the gift of what Nyx and the world is. It was kind of
Mhm.
like dropped down all of a sudden one day, or at least that's how
Yeah.
I remember it.
Mhm.
I remember I was in restaurant management. So I went to El Cajon High School, which is in El Cajon, California.
Okay.
And in that class, we actually had a restaurant um, for teachers and for students who could afford it, and
Wow.
also for people who were just rewarded by the school for just their efforts in academics or like their attitude or different things like that.
Mhm.
And so one of the classes was managing the restaurant, and so I remember I was with my friend at the dishwashing station, and I was just like, oh, I'm thinking of these characters and just like ooh, what I want them to do, and just
Mhm.
I was more focused on like their weaponry or like their abilities and things like that.
Yes, okay.
um because at the time I was watching a lot of TV shows, like Ruby, which is like an anime, and uh Steven Universe, kind of just like their familial bond, even though they're like not related at all. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that kind of brought a lot of inspiration. um but yeah, so that was kind of just beginnings of this world, and that's when I kind of started to delve more into it and
Mhm.
kind of um receive getting more of the story from God. And so next it moved into kind of the journey. That's kind of like the second distinct moment, which was in college.
Mhm.
um and so in between college and high school I did write a little bit, but it was more like finding the story.
Mhm.
But I would say in college that really shaped a lot of what the story is now. Um,
Mhm.
of course, there's more to come, but I would say college had a heavy impact. Um, I remember it. I will say from my experience in college,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it was the best.
Okay.
I pursued a degree in business administration,
Okay.
and keep it a buck. It was hard. As a creative person, I found it
Mm,
very difficult to like.
yeah.
I didn't think I'd be good in that field, and
Hmm.
so on a serious note, it did bring up a lot of mental health issues,
Mm,
and it was a very hard time, but
hmm.
thankfully, um God would just shaped that time and like used it to turn it into a beautiful story when it came
Hmm.
to Nyx and the characters, and it made them more real. And I
Mm,
believe that people who do read the book, that they'll have more of a connection with these characters and what they experienced because of what I did go through.
hmm.
I It makes it easier for me to write in a perspective that I did experience versus trying to write something that I haven't gone through before. And so I am thankful that he is using that, or he
Mhm.
did use that.
Yes.
Um, Along with also there were some pleasant experiences in college that did allow me to make it survive and also
Yes.
thrive at moments.
Yes.
So yes. Um but yeah, I would say like the journey of college kind of shaped what the story is coming to be. And the third distinct moment was in college, which was like senior year. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's when God really showed me what was the root of the story, or like
Hmm.
what was the one of the many purposes that this book is going to um have, which
Hmm.
is rediscovering identity. um
Mm.
in my personal life,
Hmm.
I had um my parents, or specifically my dad, really set up what I was going to do in my life, whether
Hmm.
that was in a prophetic sense or whether that was just like something he wanted me to have in life, like to succeed
Hmm.
in life. It was kind of like, I'm set. Like, I don't got to do nothing. I just got to follow directions and we good.
Yeah.
Um, and to expose myself, I
Okay.
did take it. I was a little prideful. In back then when like kids were trying to like figure out who they were and what they wanted to do with
Mm.
their life, I was just
Yes.
I kind of took it was just like, oh, I'm better than y'all. I
You
kind of
already
already know.
knew.
and and here I am today being humbled. Because
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
I'm figuring out who I want to be, or like who I want to root my identity in. Um,
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to um the character specifically. I'll talk about Nyx.
Hmm.
So he is a Diav, which is a divine being who embodies a force of earthly or ethereal nature of Earth. So
Okay.
he specifically is the Diav of despair. So
Okay.
his job is to punish wicked humans and protect righteous ones. He also instills despair that in a way that either that helps people along in their plans and desires of Earth. And
Hmm.
so being a being who's kind of above humans and who isn't all knowing but is knows more than a human being would about their life, or
Hmm.
what's in control, or what's behind the scenes. He's kind of set in who he is and his identity. He knows who he's going to be, what he's going to do for the rest of his life,
Wow.
until all humans pass away.
Hmm.
But um in a matter of moments, that his identity is kind of shaken when
Hmm.
it comes to his home is destroyed and he's forced to flee to Earth, and now he's put into an environment that doesn't really secure who he is and what who he is claimed to be or who he's designed to be. And
Hmm.
so he's now in this space where he has to kind of rediscover who he is, and how is he going to identify himself, and what is he going to root himself in, and things like that.
Hmm.
And so
Yes.
I think that was like one of the main I guess maybe themes or like messages that the Lord kind of exposed me to, and allowed
Mm.
me to see through my personal life. And so
Hmm.
yeah, I would say those were like the three distinct moments, which was like laying down the foundation, the journey
Hmm.
with college, and then seeing the root of the whole story.
That's incredible. Wow. Thank you for you took us all through.
Yeah.
We still have more to get into, so buckle up. Okay, so just as one of the things that you left off on was that your book explores some really deep themes.
Yeah.
Could you share what the message or theme that you're hoping that your readers would take away?
Well, I I will say there are a lot of messages and themes
Hmm.
to the full book,
Hmm.
due to there are multiple characters, and even though rediscovering your identity is one of like the main ones,
Okay.
um, each character explores that theme in a different way.
Mm.
So for the sake of simplicity. I think I'm going to stick with the demo, and I think it
Okay.
will help with people who read it or those who desire to read it.
Hmm.
Um, it can be a good discussion so everyone's on the same
Okay.
page
Yes,
versus
yes.
discussing something that hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so I think it'd be best to talk about Lux, which he is one of the main characters in the novel.
Hmm.
He is the dyad of desire, and he is put into this position of being the leader of their home, which is called Haven.
Hmm.
And yes, like I said, he's forced into this position and he does not feel qualified. He doesn't feel as if he should be put into this place of power,
Hmm.
just due to not feeling prepared. Um, However, because of the way that their system is set up,
Hmm.
it's in a way perfect.
Mm.
And so the things that happen, they happen for a reason. So they don't really question what decisions are being made, or if an action was made, it's like, yes, that seems like that's the best course of action.
Action. Hmm.
And so he's caught up in this place um of being like, well, I don't feel qualified, I don't feel called to be here yet. I'm this decision is already made, and so it's just like you're kind of stuck in between those two places.
Mm,
And
yes.
so he kind of puts on this false face of, I know what I'm doing. I'm handling everything. I can do what is asked of me. And
Hmm.
especially at this time, he is handling a very delicate situation when it comes to the survivability of humanity. And he's in to keep it a buck, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Don't at all.
Yeah. And so it's like he's trying his best to figure out what is the best course of action while
Hmm.
also not being entirely honest with his community, which is his other siblings. Um,
Mm.
and even though he has like a close circle of people, I he's not even honest with those people as well. He
Hmm.
lets them in to a certain point.
Hmm.
And so I think one of the themes that I do explore, especially with his character,
Hmm.
um, is being honest and like
Hmm.
submitting to other people,
Mm.
especially being in the power of leadership.
Authority, leader.
Yeah,
Okay, yes. Hmm.
authority and
Hmm.
leadership. Because as easy as it is to, well, I'll speak for Lux, because I personally haven't been put into that position where I'm leading other people,
Hmm.
or I don't feel as if I have.
Hmm.
Um, so for Lux, I think it's easier to create a, I don't know if facade's the right word, but I'm gonna use it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Create a facade of like, I know what I'm doing, and I think it's out of good intentions. It's he's doing it in a place of, I think he's trying to do it at a place of love to like not let his family worry of like what's going
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
and things like that. But the question is that loving? Like, is it
Right.
loving for him to be dishonest with his family and to
Hmm.
not be like to not tell them like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing in this situation. And
Yeah.
even though he does try to put himself in a place where he wants to accept help and things like that, um it's still, I think just that level of dishonesty creates a division amongst
Absolutely. Yeah.
his
Yes. Yes.
community.
Hmm.
And so I think one of the things that I want to encourage when people read Lux's perspective is like, for those who are in a, I guess in you can see it in two ways. For those who are in a position of power,
Hmm.
um, I encourage them to be honest with their community and submit to their community, and not in a way of like, you are above me, but in a way of like, I'm serving you as a leader, and I think it's best if I'm honest with my community because
Hmm.
they might have the solution, or they might
Right.
offer another way of thinking.
Hmm.
And you don't want to put yourself as a leader in a place where it's like you're you need to know everything because that's not realistic.
Mm,
As humans, there are things we can't control and there's things that we don't know. And
hmm
so it's like to be able to put yourself in a space where you're being honest, like, hey, I don't know everything, but I'm going to try my best um to do what I can, and I'm going to accept the help around me.
hmm
And also on the flip side of that,
hmm
for those who aren't in a position of leadership, but who are following others, following a leader, I think it, for those who read it, they can have more understanding and
Sympathy.
sympathy
Hmm
and grace for those who are leaders, because I think it can be easy to be like, you're in this position, you're supposed to know everything. And
Right.
like for those who are called by God unknowingly, or who do know, um
hmm
it's it's there are a lot of examples in the Bible where it's like people are called to be in positions that they don't feel like they're qualified for,
Right.
and yet the Lord is like, let me show you a little something, something. And so it's like it and so it's I think it's best, it's again speaking for Lex, like
hmm
for him to humble himself in a way to allow more people to know. Like I do encourage like having boundaries, knowing the people, like making sure you're selecting the few people who
Right.
do know, because not everyone needs to know in the situation.
Correct.
However, for those who are inquiring, or for those who you are close with, who are in your circle, having that level of honesty of being like, hey, I don't completely know the situation, and
hmm
I really need some help, because I think it caused a lot of inner turmoil for Lex, and he responded in ways that I don't think he wanted to,
hmm
but because that he has put in the effort or created this habit of not being completely honest, his actions were deemed, um what's the word, like, I guess, came out of a place of pride. And so
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I would say like I said, one of those themes is being honest and submitting to others in your community. So yeah.
That's really good. I I really appreciated what you were saying as far as taking the opportunity to not view our leaders, those who are in charge, with this pretense that they have it all together, so they can't even have a space to actually ask for help. And I think that's important that we create more spaces for people in those positions to know that that pressure can be removed. Like
Yeah.
I really feel like it should be a we're all working together. And
Hmm.
so as long as we can encourage those that, hey, it's okay if you don't have it all together. How can I step in? How can I support you? What does it look like to support you?
Hmm.
And yeah, you just don't see too many stories, I'll say that, that addresses a theme like that. So
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Thank you.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
So my next question for you, and you did honestly kind of dive into this a little bit when writing your book, you had expressed facing some challenges in the process. Were there you did touch on mental health as one of
Hmm.
them, but were there other ones that you were experiencing during the writing process, or would you like to delve into that one a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. um I would say one of the things that was an obstacle or a challenge was
Mhm.
not trusting my ability to write, or my
Mm,
gift of writing that
yeah.
I believe that God has given me.
hmm
Um, I thought that like I wasn't good enough, and that by talent alone, which I would say that I feel like I was raised in a sense where if I wasn't good at something just
hmm
naturally, then it was like, this ain't for me, bro. And so it
hmm
was very difficult when it was like, I really want to write this story. Like, I really want to create this. create this and develop this and like bring this to the world, yet I feel like I'm not good at this. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
self-doubt and a lot of like criticizing myself over my ability, it it did take a toll.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I learned from, or what I'm learning from that challenge is that it's okay to take the time to learn the craft or to
Mm-hmm.
learn whatever that you're trying to get into.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that you don't have it naturally or you're not
Yeah.
at this like peak level, um, because like sometimes it's not that way. And even for those who are at such a high level in their craft or whatever field that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
it's still important to take the time to grow and learn, because it's like you don't like I said before, you don't know everything. So it's, I think that's something that I'm still trying to learn, and also learn that like I was given this gift for a reason, the gift
Right.
of writing and also the gift of what Nyx is for a reason. And so even though I might not feel qualified, or I feel like my writing alone isn't as good, it's like why would I be given this if
Idea.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
why would I be given this idea if I'm if I wasn't, what's the word? Why was I given this? Why was
You're okay.
why
Yep, you are.
why was I given this idea if like I wasn't meant to write it? You know what I'm saying? For a
Right,
reason.
right. If it wasn't supposed to be from you,
Yes,
your story to share. Yes.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing. Another thing, so going back to mental health, um
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things did influence my mental health, impact my mental health negatively, which was like college. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, I had a few family issues and also just inner turmoil of
Mm-hmm.
just like in that process of rediscovering my identity and who I
Mm-hmm.
am by myself. Because that was kind of like the first time where I had a choice whether or not I wanted to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of kind of stuck in between where it was like I did have a choice whether or not I wanted to follow the instructions of going pursuing this degree, but also
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, like I've never been put in that position where I could make
Mm-hmm.
this big
Your own
choice.
decision. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was just like, maybe I should stick with what I've been told to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it did cause a lot of inner turmoil because it was just like, I know this isn't something I want to do yet. I don't feel like I have anywhere else I can go.
Mm-hmm.
That impact that hit me heavily. And so
Yes.
it definitely made it hard to write. And I think so at times I also felt like I wasn't doing enough, like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so
Mm-hmm.
that did impact me, um, have an impact. But thankfully I did have a great support system.
Mm-hmm.
Like God, A1 day one. I mean, yeah, for me, he was out here supporting me in ways that I did see in ways that I didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was that. I also had family who was very supportive. I also had friends who, took the time to like listen and who were excited by this creation. And so that definitely did
Mm-hmm.
help. And also strangers. I had an opportunity once to give a speech um
Oh,
based
wow.
off of the idea of Nyx.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very refreshing, especially to like a validation sense. Um, when people were like, sounds like a great idea. Like, I want to know more about it. And so it was just like, it encouraged me and motivated me to like,
Yeah, to keep going.
yeah. And so there was that. And then I would say for my one of another challenge,
Mm-hmm.
um, was I had a lot of unhealthy like behaviors and mindsets when it came to just like my personal life, but it also did affect my writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that included perfectionism,
Mm.
just believing that like I couldn't move on from a certain piece of writing until I got it to a certain point where it's just like, no, it has to basically be perfect so then so I don't have to go back and try to fix things. And
Mhm.
like it's heavily encouraged in the writing community. Like when you're writing your first draft, like just put
Mhm.
it on paper because
Okay.
it's gonna be rough. And so it's just like just put it out there. However, I think maybe just due to how I was raised and I think I wouldn't say raised to be perfect, but I
Mhm.
think there were some areas that got a little twisted or a little confused where it was like it had to be perfect.
Mhm.
So that definitely did hinder my work sometimes, along
Mhm.
with being very overcritical with myself. This is something I deal with today of
Mhm.
just not giving myself the same amount of grace I might give another person. Like
Mhm.
if I was if someone else was writing this story and if they were responding the same way I was, I wouldn't think that would be fair to themselves because it's just like you're really trying your best and like you're getting
Just getting started.
exactly. And so it's just like be kind. I had to like learn to be kind to myself
Yeah.
and I'm still learning that today because I'm currently in the process of still writing the full novel and
Mm.
like there are times where it can be difficult um to just let the story like build
Develop.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and where it's just like no you need to know this and it's like how I'm just knowing it myself, I'm learning. so so yeah. And then also another thing was just comparing myself to other people
Mm.
that can be dangerous. Of just
Absolutely.
like not knowing where they're at in their story or in their journey of
Mhm.
life and trying to be like, well, like how come I'm not there? And it's just like, bro, they got 30 years on you. You're not even you haven't hit 30 and all stuff like calm down. So yeah. So that was just a few things. And so I'm still a work in progress. So I don't per se have a lot to offer in that situation of like solutions, but
Mhm.
I would say like the key thing of just be kind to yourself and give yourself grace. And I know a practice that has helped me sometimes when I remember to do so is like talk to myself as if I'm another person because that
Okay.
just allows me to get out of my head or to get out of myself and being like, well, I wouldn't treat another person the way that I'm treating myself. So
Mhm.
let's try that again.
That's
So
really good. No, that's a wonderful practice because it
yeah,
helps you to detach
yeah,
yourself from from being so harsh and taking all of that criticism.
exactly.
Thank you so much for your transparency.
Oh yes.
This sounds as it's not an easy feat, but it sounds as if you are rising up to the challenge and you are learning and embracing the process, and that's great. Instead of backing down from it and playing small. So just wanted to give you your flowers in regards to that. Keep up the great work, Destin.
Thank you.
On that note, Venison Kingdom Network is all about embracing uniqueness and breaking molds. How would you say your book reflects that philosophy? Were there any risks that you took with this project that deviated from the norm?
Would say so. Um, I would say that this book, well, specifically sticking with the demo, let's start there. I
Mhm.
would say it's not your typical Christian book. Um,
Mhm.
I per se wouldn't label it as a Christian book. I would say
Mhm.
it has like Christ like principles or things
Mhm.
that he's taught
Mhm.
in a practical sense.
Okay.
Um, but it's yeah, I wouldn't be like, oh, like if you were to see it's like, oh, this is a Christian book. Like it kind of catches you like, is there a little something there? It's getting a little holy. And so yes, but I would say um I or or more I would say that God has given me these characters, which is interesting how some of them aren't human,
Hmm.
um, and showing how human we are. um I think it's cool that how we can use entertainment to, like I said, kind of how you were saying before, like able to detach ourselves and like the things that we go through, and when we
Hmm.
see it through another person, we can sometimes process it a lot easier
Hmm.
than we do ourselves. Like if we're just talking it through with ourselves, I guess.
Yes. Hmm.
um and I think that with the book, um, I think one of the desires I have is to kind of refresh the scene, for Christ and his children, and just like anyone who is a Christian or who is a Christ follower.
Hmm.
um I want to create a space that gives sympathy and empathy and understanding and grace
Hmm.
to those two people who are Christians, because I would say in today's age, um Christians can be viewed stereotypically.
Hmm.
However, keep it a buck, it's valid. People who aren't in who don't follow Christ,
Hmm.
it's where they're coming from or how they feel about certain things. It's valid because of who we are as humans. We sometimes don't respond in the same way that Christ would, or how God would
Hmm.
treat us. And so
Hmm.
it's I would say it's easy, or it would make sense for a person who is on the outside to be like, oh, if they're treating me this way, then why would I follow God? Or like when you're trying to encourage me to do so, why would
Right.
I do that based off of how you're saying things, or doing things? And so I think one of the things, yeah, like I said, I'm passionate about is like kind of giving everyone a refresh of like, let's
We're all
actually
people.
yeah, we're all people. Like let's set the scene of just like we are not all perfect, and for those
Hmm.
who do act that way, let's practice humility of just being
Mm.
like, we're not perfect. And I mean, let me speak for myself. There are times where like I view something and it is very quick and easy to judge, or being like, why are they doing it this way, when it's just like,
Right.
well, one, we're not following the same principles, and bruh, you're barely surviving the week. Like, don't let's calm down. And so it's just like, it's a practice, like it every day where we have to like humble ourselves,
Hmm.
um to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like everyone's figuring out everything for the first time. Like there isn't,
Hmm.
like we don't come in with knowledge on earth like, oh, this is how we're supposed to do things. We have to learn ourselves, and we have
Hmm.
to be patient with ourselves and other people who are learning. And the way that they respond and react, we it's it's a lot easier to cut them off, or to just view it surface level
Hmm.
versus seeing where they are coming from, of like, why did they respond this way, like why did they
Right.
react in this manner, and like try to question and understand where all this is coming from.
Hmm.
um and I would say a practical, like not a practical example, but a personal example for me is my personal relationship with my dad. He has gone through some things in his life, and like, not to put his business out there, but um he's dealing with those challenges and dealing with the I guess the repercussion, or just like the consequences of his actions.
Hmm.
And um there was a time in my life, or kind of dealing with that now, but there was like a a highlighted point in my life where I kind of saw the things that he did and how they reflected onto me, and how like the way I operate and how I respond to things is based off of his behaviors and his actions.
Hmm.
And at the time, it was very easy to just be angry and to just not try to understand where he was coming from,
Hmm.
and just being like, he should have did better. Like, especially um in the position he was as my father, of just being like, he seemed like he knew what he was doing. Like he gave off this image of that,
Mhm.
like, I got this, I can handle this, kind of like
Mhm.
Lux.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when things came to light, or when light was shed on the fact that like he is simply human, he's simply trying his best,
Yeah.
it I didn't respond in, I would say, in a loving way. I mean, I was processing in my own manner because
Mhm.
some of the things that I don't think were okay. And so like I feel like I did respond healthily in anger.
Mhm.
However, I do think I did hold on to that anger, and to this day I still do sometimes, or it comes back and lashes out.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but I would say that God has kind of given me the perspective in my own life where I feel like a lot of the things that I do are um kind of mimics what he has done. And so it allows me to understand, like, oh, this is why, like, it's hard for him to change or to make changes or to
Mhm.
do the things that he needs to do, because changing is hard. Or
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It can sometimes feel exhausting because it's just like no matter how much work I put in, it feels like I'm not progressing, or I'm afraid to actually even make the first step, because what if
Mhm.
I try and I don't succeed,
Mhm.
or it's like I'm going to let down other people, or just the fact of admitting that like I was wrong in the first place.
Mhm.
It's hard to be vulnerable in that way. And so it going being able to experience that, it has given me time to have grace
Mhm.
for 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 him, and it has put me into three positions. One, there are the times where I reflect and I am still angry about those things that he's done and how they've impacted my life, and now that I'm responsible of healing and having to do the work. But
Mhm.
I'm also in this place where I'm trying to learn to forgive and
As
and
well.
try to understand that, like, I see where you're coming from and what you've gone through, and I want to see better, which then goes into that third stage of like, however, like this your actions, like, they cannot continue. Like, I need to set boundaries for myself, and I need to see you get better in order for us to have a relationship. And
Mhm.
so we're still working on that third phase. We're still working on all the phases, period. And
Yeah.
so um learning to have grace for myself, to go through that journey, because however how simple it sounds, it's not easy.
Yes.
And so I think that with this book, tying it back to the book, I want to set a space for people to understand and look into other people's lives, these characters' lives, like Lux and Nyx, and hopefully they can tie it to their personal lives, and hopefully have empathy and sympathy for the people around them, and like if they per se have a strained relationship with their father, they can hopefully see from Lux's perspective or Nyx's perspective on parenthood and all, and just giving grace in general, and
Mhm.
just being like, oh, I can see where you're coming from. Where people, I want to unify people
Mhm.
with this, because I would say in today's age we're getting more divided with a lot of
Mhm.
things, and understandably seeing where those divisions are coming from. Now it's the choice of like, do we want to continue in that division, or do we want to try and try to do the work, even though it might not be easy? The end result will be better, that we're all unified and that we're all trying to work together to do something great, do the things that we've been called for. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Awesome. I understand that you come from a business administrative background,
Hmm.
which may not traditionally be associated with authorship.
Yeah.
How has your unique background influenced your writing?
So, when it comes to business administration, I would say that my experience of learning, like I said, wasn't the best, due to like talking about mental health, and just
Mhm.
I had been in the mindset for so long that, yeah, I don't think I can grasp the business concept. I'm a creative person. Like I can't, this ain't for me.
Mhm.
And so I think with that, I kind of I'm starting to understand and imply those business concepts, and I say
Mhm.
loosely.
Okay.
Um, because business is related to authorship, because it's not, there's more to
Mm.
authorship just than writing. There's a business side of it of like marketing yourself, and
Mm.
to the publishing side of like knowing the cost and knowing like supply demand and terms like that. And so yes, because especially as a self-published author, you're kind of handling everything versus being um having an agent and having someone
Having
who's
a
kind of
team.
taking care of, yeah, having a team.
Hmm.
And so it's you kind of have to know those things or learn those things along the
Hmm.
way. And I think that my time at Oral Roberts University, that's where I went to college for my business degree. I i um I think that I gathered as much information as I could
Hmm.
while my time there, and I still have more learning to do when along the way as I'm publishing and writing and going on this journey of authorship.
Hmm.
So I can sometimes apply like a business concept to what I'm trying to do,
Hmm.
but like I have to sometimes fill in the gaps. So that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to the relationship between authorship and business administration.
Sounds like you're finding a way to implement it how you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Your writing style, for those who may not be familiar with your particular style, how would you describe your writing voice and what sets it apart from other authors in your genre?
So I guess starting with the later part, or yeah, the latter part of that question when it comes to
Mhm.
like comparing, um, excuse me, I really can't compare due to the fact that I don't read that much when it comes to
Oh.
books in general. And it's kind of like, hmm? Because the author community, or just like, yeah, the writing community in general
Mhm.
encourages like for you to read, because it's like you can gather inspiration, you can like learn from other people's writing and things like that.
Mhm.
However, I'm learning, or I've somewhat learned that um I can be easily influenced by other people's works,
Makes
and
sense.
it can get to the point where it's just like, oh, if I see a scene in a movie or a TV show and I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh, I like that, I'm going to try to implement this into the book. However, the question is it actually necessary, or does it
Yeah.
actually add value, or is it just cool? And it's like, it's cool. And sometimes I'd be a little delusional, try to be like, it's okay. But, but yeah, we're trying to do better. Um,
Okay.
but so yeah, like I really can't compare. But
Mhm.
as for my own personal writing style, I would say it's very personal. I've written,
Mhm.
um who says it can't, my
My
writing
writing
ability
ability
or
or
just
just
the
the
way
way
I
I
write
write
can't
can't
change
change
in
in
the
the
future.
future. Evolve. Mhm.
Mhm. But
But
as
as
for
for
now,
now,
I
I
would
would
say
say
like,
like
for the
for the
demo,
demo,
it's
it's
very
very
journalistic,
journalistic
or
or Mm.
it's
it's
kind
kind
of,
of
it's
it's
very
very
personal.
personal. Okay.
When
When
like
like
the
the
reader
reader
reads
reads
it,
it,
it's
it's
kind
kind
of
of
like
like
as
as
if
if
the
the
characters
characters
are
are
talking
talking
to
to
you
you
like
like
a
a
friend.
friend
Or
or
for
for
example,
example,
I
I
remember
remember
when
when
I
I
was
was
writing
writing
the
the
demo,
demo,
I
I
always
always
had
had
in
in
mind
mind
that
that
the
the
characters
characters
were
were
kind
kind
of
of
like
like
um in
in
therapy,
therapy
and they
and
were
they were
kind
kind
of
of
talking
talking.
to this
Oh,
therapist.
yeah.
And yeah, it kind of made it easy, it made it easier for me to be able to like talk in their perspective and sit in, to be in their shoes as I'm writing. But
Hmm.
also I think like when other people are reading it, it's kind of just like, I think it also helps that with the themes that I'm trying to teach, or just the overall goal of allowing people to feel seen and heard by the
Mm.
book,
Hmm.
um, it makes it more personal, and just allowing them to be like, oh, I feel heard. I can relate to this. And so yeah, and I would say that I do kind of see things sometimes in like a TV show perspective.
Okay.
Like that is a goal in the future to make this series into a
Wow.
TV show.
Yes.
Um, and so I I do see the scenes like in my head, and so I try sometimes to like describe it based off of how I'm like seeing it as if I was watching it.
Hmm.
But so yeah, that's kind of like my writing style.
That is a very unique take. I don't hear it too many from that approach, that
Hmm.
personal, almost, it sounds like journal entries, journalistic
Yeah,
perspective. So
yeah.
that's very exciting. Very good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you.
So, what are your next steps following the release of this demo?
So, um, so currently, right now, I am writing the first book of the Nyx volume. So the Books
The
of
full
Haven,
release.
yes,
That's
the
what you're
full
saying.
release.
Okay, wow. Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
exciting.
yes. So the Books of Haven is a series
Mhm.
altogether, and right now I'm working on the first volume, which is surrounded, is focused on Nyx.
Mhm.
So I'm working on the first book in that volume,
Okay.
right now, and yeah, I mean it's going well. It's like some days it's a little hard to write, but other times like there are some highs and some lows.
Mhm.
Um, but I would say like right now, a chapter that I'm writing, which I can't get into the details of, but
Right, of course, of course. We won't pry you.
yeah. um, but yeah, the chapter I'm writing, it's kind of difficult to write, not in like the topic of it, even though it is heavy, it's just it's like I don't know if you've ever like just like working on a project where it's just like you're working on a certain part and it's just like I could skip this honestly. However, it's very vital
Mhm.
to what needs to go on right now. And so it's like, I got to push through. And so
Yeah.
that's where I'm currently at. And so, but
Mhm.
it's going well. I'm enjoying the process. It's been a learning process of just like how who I am as a writer and like the processes I will take in order to do so and to get the results that I want. And so
Mhm.
yes. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm doing right now. Another thing is I'm currently raising funds for the development of the book
Okay.
for the first novel, the full release. So actually recently, um yeah, I'm pretty sure actually okay, yeah, recently I had funded raised a campaign or started a campaign for the novel, which we didn't get the results we were looking for. However,
Okay.
we are still in efforts to continue crowdfunding, and
Okay.
so that relationship that information will soon be released. And so yes, I can't wait to get that jump started.
Yes. Is
Um,
there any way you could let us know where we could like follow along with the journey, where people can add, and is donate the right turn to donate to the campaign?
yeah, donate or support because I know it'd be
Support.
harder in these streets when it comes to funds. And so if
Mhm.
just sharing with someone who might want to know more about the book or who has the ability to fund this project,
Mhm.
that's support enough, honestly. So yes, but as a way of following the journey, I do have Twitter or X, whichever you like to call it, and Instagram,
Okay.
and the at is yellow. It's Nick, so YALLO and ITSNYX. Um, so yes, that's where you can kind of follow the journey. Granted,
Okay.
I'm still like trying to get the social media thing together.
That's
Um,
okay. That's
so
okay.
yes, I'm trying to give a little more than just promoting. I want to get into something, but we're still figuring it out. It's a learning
Hmm. Hmm.
process. I also am in the efforts of creating like a Discord um for other creatives and other people who just want to be create a community,
Hmm.
whether that's in any art form or just people who might be interested in reaching out to those who are in the creative world and using their talents and gifts. So that's something else I'm working on. And yeah, like I said before, campaigning for the full novel. So yeah.
Could you also release some of that information where people can hop on your campaign
Oh yeah. So that will probably be linked somewhere in
on your
one of my
social
social
media?
medias
Okay,
because
great.
yeah, it's probably the easiest and more simplest way for
Okay.
people to find it.
Yes. Understood. Understood. Great. Lastly, if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring authors who are looking to share their own unique stories, what would it be?
I would say giving yourself grace.
Mm,
I know that's something we talked about previously. But I think not just with writing, I think it helps in every aspect of life. Because like I said before, we're just kind of learning everything
mhm.
and we're not going to get everything down
Right.
perfectly and
Right.
things aren't going to come out the way that we expect them on the
Mhm,
first try. For example, when it came to campaigning the novel, I had hoped that I would reach this like big amount of a goal. And when it didn't come, like when it didn't give the results that I was looking for, it was a
mhm,
bit disappointing. And
mhm,
I did kind of internalize that. And so I'm learning to give myself grace for those things, but also
mhm,
understanding like it's not in my control.
mhm,
And so it's like I did the best I could. I feel like I could do a little bit more, but I did a lot of what I could. Um,
mhm,
and now I'm being in now I'm it's being revealed that like, hey, I can do this differently. Like even though I technically failed, I'm not going to take it as a like, oh, I did this bad thing, like I did something wrong. I'm now trying to take it as like I'm going to learn from this situation,
mhm,
learn what I can do better and how I can put in a better effort next time. And so
mhm,
that's a way I'm trying to give myself grace. But yeah, for anyone who's out there who's a creative or not, just giving yourself grace to learn and to mess up and to
mhm.
letting things not be perfect. Yeah, because some things aren't in our control, and
Right.
whether or not you believe in God or yeah, whether or not you believe in God, it's just he there are things that we can't control. And so um putting it into his hands and allowing him to take the reins.
Mhm.
It sounds simple. It ain't easy all the time, but it's a lot easier than trying to do everything yourself.
Right, right.
So
Just
yeah.
seeing him through, seeing
Yeah.
seeing him through as he sees you through the
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Speak a word.
Ah! Well, I do want to, before we do close, I do want to say you're doing an incredible job.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for your process, for your journey as you're going through it. And even what you were saying that resonated, the portion about how it feels as if we fail when we don't necessarily see the outcome that we wanted to see.
Hmm.
And just taking the time to make space for grief. I think that's
Mm,
one of the things that sometimes we kind of negate. It's one of
yeah.
those things where it's like, oh, I disappoint, like I failed. So now, like, what can I do to kind of like rush past that pain in order to like make it to that next goal?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to just put it out there that whenever you truly make space for that, you begin to recognize and realize that like you've come a long way.
Yeah.
Like you have um forged through some really tough and some really challenging things. And just wanting to highlight the importance of like celebrating, even though you didn't get what you wanted, even though it didn't pan out the way that you might have wanted,
Hmm.
in our particular case of believing in God, like we know that like his timing is everything. And like
Yeah.
his timing and his way of revealing things isn't the same as ours, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we learned that it's like, but it's still the greatest thing. There's a lot of like how you were saying, like teachable moments. Like now that you have walked through this experience, you're fueled with like more fire and passion to be able to pursue the goal with a better wisdom and strategy this go around. And
Yeah.
so I celebrate you. I also feel for you as far as not being able to get what you wanted, but
Hmm.
also recognizing that it sounds like it was the sweetest thing, the best thing for you now. And I
Yeah.
know that moving forward, it's just going to keep getting better from here.
Thank you. I needed that.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you with us, Destin. We are so excited to see where this journey takes you, and we can't wait to see the full book.
Oh,
Which
yes.
did you happen to have a projected release date for that?
I would like to get it out this year,
Okay.
hopefully in December. Last year, that's when I released the demo, and so I'm like,
Okay.
hey, what if we can make this a pattern?
Yes, yes.
But I'm learning that the story is still enveloping, and so I do want to give it as much time that it needs in order for it to give the best results for the people who are
Mhm.
wanting to read this and hopefully, you know, feel seen and feel heard and hopefully relate to these characters. And so if it's gonna take more time, then it's gonna take more time. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
but that's the goal.
Okay, no, that's great. And you've already given us the information where we can keep track of the process of the journey. For everyone watching, be sure to check out Destin's demo and follow him on his social media pages
Mhm.
and keep an eye on what's next. Remember, here at Venison Kingdom Network, we're all about breaking molds and embracing uniqueness. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more inspiring stories. And thank you, Destin.
Thank you for having me.